So while it may not be pouring down in rain, it is what we in the industry call wet enough. If it's wet enough outside and I don't want to go clean up course or move rocks around, then obviously it's Fab Lab. And after the most recent installment of this guy, with the you shouldn't be able to fit your fist through that hole. Like, there's just nothing. We're going to put the motor up there. I am going to semi-cheat. I've got the plate. And we have ample opportunity for failure because we have got to make this shabonkers shape that goes around there, right? And then I'm taking some advantage, channel member, subscriber, all around supporter of the channel, JP Wirt, has supplied me with a number. I believe this is part of a forward motor mount for, I want to say it's Amazon Digbox in 10.3. I have one in service somewhere here in the fleet, but if I don't have to make this part, this was done by Send Cut Send, so we've got that part out of the way. It lines up pretty well. You can see a little drive shaft interference. I'm just going to clock it over to the side about like that, so the motor will be sitting at a little happy angle. And then I am going to refabricate this back plate. I've got to make just this. I've got to make this inner part right here. None of the rest of this. So we've already got our 5052. Is it 5052? Yeah, I believe this is from the last sheet of 5052. We're already die-chemmed up. I'm going to trace this guy out basically out here in the middle. When this piece is done, it's going to be a little kind of an odd shape like this. Then the gearbox will go in place. I did all the little, what I regard as important pre-tests, which is I mounted the motor to the plate, and the motor is going to be right out about here, and it doesn't interfere with anything. It's not near anything. It's just moving it into this hole, and most importantly, the thing we're here most after is that guy just nestles right in there. I am going to build a little riser to come up off of here. That's just flat. Build a little riser for the battery to sit on. Probably just put Velcro on it. I haven't decided. I might be able to get a strap around it. And you can see the way it's sprung. Look at it will just rest over. Even though this weight is not on it, it is so resting to that side just from the weight of this little bit of stuff. So I think even this guy at 95 grams was too much weight on that side for how softly I like to have things sprung. While I'm cutting up aluminum, I am not ruling out unmounting this and building a shorter guy to put a micro in there, because we would drop about half the amount of weight that we dropped going from a 1300 to an 850. So this is a situation that requires loud music. So I'm going to be back and forth. There'll probably be a background hum from the amps because I'm not going to bother to turn them off. We're bouncing around. This might be a double Fab Lab. Whether or not this is a double Fab Lab is determined by how that goes, because as you can see, that countersink is, and they don't need to be countersunk. That's the thing. When it's on the gearbox, and when the gearbox adapter is installed, whether it be the one that I made or the one that came with it, like, there's absolutely no need for those to be recessed. So I'm probably just going to use button heads or cap heads, because I would rather not the countersunk holes be basically touching the edge. So this, I don't know, it's like a New York strip, like a porterhouse, like it's a steak, the steak cut. I've got to trace this out. I get out my new favorite guy. Yes, the Stahlwheel Carbide Scriber. And I'm going to start, before I even drill holes, we are going to cut this out and see if we can't get, well, I got to cut this down on the table saw. We're going to get this traced out. We're going to start cutting it. And God willing, we'll only have to do it once. Actually, turns out it wasn't too bad. It's not perfect. We overcut there. We overcut there. But, I mean, with the and it's hidden by the head. But this screw, everything clocked a little bit, probably when I was tracing it. And I was initially thinking, well, let's turn this guy down so he's not sitting as far out. But it really doesn't matter, because if he's sitting this far out, it will just space the motor further forward. And as we're running a 3523, is it a 3523? We would never 3523. We wouldn't be going any bigger on this build than a 3530. And this motor has been working great, so I don't see any need to change it. And as we're clocking this mount a little bit, we have to clock it right about there. The only issue is going to arise, you see right there? That this guy passing through is going to be really close. So I will definitely take a close... We need to be spaced out about there. I'm going to need to take a closer look at where this guy falls. Like, I could just clock it that much, and I think we'd be fine. Yeah, so the backplate's going to be pretty small, which is nice. We're trying to keep the backplate as small as we can. In these sort of situations, we end up definitely throwing away more aluminum than we keep. So I'm pretty happy. I mean, aside from that, you can see the gap right there. Aside from that gap there, I'm pretty happy with it. It came out fine. I did 95% of it on the bandsaw, and my bandsaw has a 1/2-inch blade, so I just drilled a bunch of holes and then just notched it out and cleaned the edges, and then used, I think they're chainsaw blade sharpening files. They're round files that are really fine grit or tooth, really small tooth, and small around, and that's what I just used to shape it out. We should have no issues with drive shaft clearance. There's actually more drive shaft clearance now than on the stock piece. The stock piece actually comes in a little more. I got appreciably close. I didn't want to cut any material off until we start figuring out where this thing is going to rest, and I think I'm going to clock it about like that. That's what we're hoping for. But I gotta focus. So I'll see you in a minute. Again, things move fortuitously. I went with this little angle right here. I initially made 20 millimeter spacers. It put it out because I was hoping for a little more forward offset, but in these situations, I tend to design to the length of the fastener, and M3x25 is something that I have in quite large number. So these were cut down to 18 millimeter. There are 3 of them to space the plate out as such. Bonus points if you don't touch any metalworking equipment to do this. My bandsaw is not a metalworking bandsaw. It's an old 9-inch Delta woodworking bandsaw that's been through a fire and was converted to cutting metal. I just changed the urethane wheels on it just a couple days ago. It's cutting like a champ. All of the standoffs and everything are all made on a wood lathe, so they've got little tooth marks from being in the wood teeth. I treat aluminum basically like wood. It's not even a particularly hard wood, so we just operate from that. So there's that, and now what I've got to do is kind of freehand how much of the back plate is going to leave, because we can't even check to see if I got the angle right. So there's still every opportunity that it's not going to work. I'll have clocked this over too far and the motor's going to touch. From everything that I dry fit and looked at it, it looks like it's going to be fine. Of course, we're obviously hoping it's going to be fine, because if I cut this shape out, clean it, put the pieces together, and this works, then we're going. This is the mysteries of Gearboxin. We're going to go into part 2 of this. It's going to be a blasty. Obviously, the second thing that I'm going to work on is also gearbox related. So here's hoping that I don't maul this in some irreversible way, and then we're going to slap it in there, and we're going to see what we do. So my first thought was make this for the micro. I would rather work on the other gearbox thing that I want to work on. So let me do this, and then we'll get to the other thing. All right, as per usual, fabrication rapidly gets out of hand. I debated over how much to remove from this gent here, and there's no real clearance issues. Like I had pointed out, we still have it. There's still a massive gap. And the way the motor sits, I could fit a full size there. I could go 35-42. I don't think he needs it. And if anything, I think we moved the motor down. It might be down a little bit lower than it was. And you see the battery is now right there. I did a very overcomplicated, like 4-piece little battery tray. And I don't know how well it's actually adhered to the chassis. Receiver over on this side, which is nice for the servo because we can just run the wires down there. It actually opens the massive hole up even more. I'm on the fence about the wiring. Like nothing is near anything else. I think we're good. We've got the battery right in the middle. I cannot judge how it sits. It's going to have to go on the scales before we can figure that out. I did have to... Oh, is it still on? Of course it's still on. I did have to resolder because obviously we flipped the motor around, so it's 180 degrees out of phase. So the motor was rotating reverse. We're still nice and quiet. The position of the spacer, that gent right in there, the position of that spacer is such that we could fit a 90, no problem. Optimally, I would like to run an 88, a Kimbrough 88, and it's not too much work to get this apart to change the spur gear out. Less work than we have on certain other individuals. So we will. I'm looking over there. There's a window, and I'm seeing some signs of sun. But, this is how fabrication goes, and a lot of it is out of frame. Can we? Yeah, we just expand out to the rest of the mess. So, we have another gearbox that I would like to tend to. I also have no batteries charged. This guy's at like 3.7 volts a cell. So, I will pop the charger on. This guy, as I tested him when I was testing motor direction, I drove up a stack of microfibers. So I feel like our forward drive is pretty good. I am curious, and I would like to get it on the scales to see how did we move it. I want to see more weight on this tire. For those who have seen that episode, I want to see more weight on this tire. So I think that came out okay. I think it's reasonably difficult to tell the difference between the piece that was designed by someone who knows what they were doing and cut by a laser and or water jet, whatever they cut with, CNC, I don't know, and the piece that was made by an idiot in a shed. I think it came out all right, and we're going to find out on rocks, hopefully. But before we do that, I'm going to clear this off, and we're going to move on to Gearbox 2 Fab Lab in overdrive today.
One long, angry line later.
Okay. Some not insignificant amount of time has passed as I was encountering, I've got this little Flash Hobby 35 guy. We'll get to why that guy's out in a second. Somewhere rattling around here on the bench is this one. I can't, they both sync up to BL Heli. There's an outrunner here, there's an outrunner there, there's a 1200. You can see where we're going here. I don't know if you can accurately see where we're going because I've done questionable things, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, because I had a notion and I just let the notion run away from me. The notion prevented the use of the 1200, so I had to take out the 1200. I would have had to take the 1200 out anyway. I just drove the gentleman in question around on the floor after going up 5 teeth on the pinion and 500 kV on the motor, and it is maybe a little bit too slow. I think it probably needs, it's on a 14 tooth pinion, it probably needs a 16, maybe a 17, because what I've done is I've taken the bane of my existence. Forgive the wiring here. Let's just, this is how this day is going. What I've done is I've taken our good friend the Ascent, for the sketchiest wiring you've ever seen currently. And what I have done is I've drilled 4 holes in the center chassis, which allowed me to just put a gearbox in it. So I just put a gearbox. So, no more 20% underdrive. Wah, wah. It didn't really help. What this thing needs is gear reduction and gently corrected geometry. So, what I've done is potentially is built a fire hazard here. Put a gearbox in place of the T-case. Flipped the motor mount over so that the spur is now on the passenger side. Straight shaft, same length shaft. It's the same exact shaft. It just has a little bit more slack in it now. Move the front upper link over to the correct side of the vehicle. Everything over there clears just fine. What's not clearing super fine is that that silver stripe is from the motor rubbing on the drive shaft at full compression. Now that's somewhat to be expected. The drive shaft is a little too big, and I could have remedied this a bit. There's enough room that I've got a Mamba Micro X2 stuffed in there under the gearbox. I could have just moved the gearbox over so that the shaft was going over that way, and I think it would have cleared. But we got it kind of centralized with a top line here. It sounds exactly like Castle Outrunner. We've got some uncut zip ties here. The thing is missing a lot of screws. There's 2 screws in the servo right now. I don't even know if it works. I know that the motor... Oh, I don't even know if all the... No, they gotta be. I was going to say I don't even know if all the drive shaft pins are in, but they've got to be. This is super sketch. The battery wire keeps touching against the back of the motor. I think it goes with the spirit. I tried 4 different radios because the 35 amp, the little Flash Hobby guy, I can go into the software. When I plug it in, the BEC is operable because I can do steering, but it just goes doo-doo-deet, doo-doo-deet, doo-doo-deet. So I tried every radio I had laying around. We just kept... Where did that spacer come from? We just kept trying to eliminate variables until we ended up where we are. And what I think we've done is, if nothing else, the weight sits very low. The drive shaft issue is correctable by just putting in one of those little cut-to-length drive shafts, the little skinny boys. So we have forward motor mount. So, okay, to y'all, this was 5 minutes ago that we built this, that we forward motor mounted this. Forward motor mount and a gearbox. Forward motor mount and a gearbox. This thing has plenty of gear reduction. On a 1500 on 4S, it's just a tiny bit faster than that on 1700 on 3S. We could run that on 4S. We could put that on 4S. There's a big old BEC shoved in here. Only rubs in that one little spot, and my guys, mounting the gearbox was nothing. I had to do some trimming. This isn't just a thing you can do. This is handed, so I just shaved a bunch of it off on the sander to clear the motor. There's plenty of adjustment. And then I forgot to install the motor, so I ended up having to pull the whole front clip out because As it sits now with the motor directly atop the drive shaft, you can't tilt the thing back. So if nothing else, I've made it more difficult to work on, all the while acknowledging that, where is it? I think this is the one that goes to it. I could have just mounted that on there, put the motor right there, and eliminated every problem. But I am maintaining, at least in my head, for the purposes of continuing the insanity, that the forward motor mount is sort of integral to the DNA of this thing. I think everything is going to help. We have no bump steer. We have a little bit of axle swing because we've got more suspension travel by a significant amount than it came from the factory. What I've also noticed is, see how our steering angle stops there and we have more steering angle that way? It's because the steering horn is hitting the top. We can do it there, but if we drop it down, notice it can't. The steering horn hits the differential housing because the diff housing is so large. I can correct this. They use an offset rod end. I can correct this by just running a longer horn, a non-offset rod end, and then trimming away some of the bumper mount. You know what? We will get to that in time, but we have to prove the concept. I just keep seeing holes that don't have screws in them, so we'll try to go out with a reasonable number of screws in it. So we're going to take the two boys out, 3S and 4S. Oh, I see another one. Nope. Yep. There's another one missing right there. And we're going to see what we've done. I'm not going to bother to do any scaling today. Honestly, I am too tired, and I've got to, I think I have some short little Velcro strappies. We got a pink one. I think if we go like this, we can keep the wires out of the motor. Ah, perfect. I could not ask for more. So this guy is ready. I just have to get the battery into Zobazu. No, nothing's hitting. No, we're good. Drive shaft comes out at the same height. Everything. This is why we don't use castles to power outrunners, but I need to drive a little bit just to wind down, because I should have worked on. I did it wrong, man. I should have worked on this one first and then the other one, because I had to fabricate parts. I had to fabricate stuff for the other one, and it was genuinely just a nice time. And this is just a plague. You have to take so much of it apart to work on anything. And, I mean, I don't know. Here's hoping. It's already rattly. Now it's going to be wicked. It's going to be wicked noisy. So if you don't like that sound, and nobody likes that sound, screaming pulse width sound, anti-ASMR warning. I'm not even going to clean up. I am going to is that it? Nope. Where's the 850? There we are. I'm gonna battery him up. Let's hope it's dried out there a little bit. It has been hours. It is so steamy out here. It is about 90% humidity, but the sun is full out now. So this will be bone dry long before this video is live. I started doing a little mental math during the walk. The old T-case for this guy had 1.2 to 1 reduction, which is effectively nothing. And I can't remember. That's basically just an SCX-10-2 clone in there, axial clone gearbox. I want to say 2.6. So we were 35 to 1 before. We're going to be in the high 70s to 1 now. So even the 1700 is probably a little pokey. We'd probably want to be like a 2000, 2200. the power delivery feels, I mean, honestly feels pretty good. I gotta remember where to go to keep the massive pumpkins out of stuff. It's really only, okay, here's where the Mamba, here's where the little Mamba Micro has issues. Right at that first tip in, like, it's not smooth. It really shows that it's not censored even with the 14 poles. But once you're on the throttle, how's our drag brake? Oh, surprisingly good. That's really good. The 1700 had not found a home up till now because it had never really shown any ability to drag brake. And as I say that, it occurs to me, it probably doesn't, there we go, little bit of rolly back. It occurs to me that doesn't have anything to do with the speed control and everything. The fact that we've got like 75-1 gear reduction. Oh, actually, we went up on the pinion, so we might be down a little. We'll be down a little, and by that I mean like high 60s, low 70s. So there's plenty of gear reduction in this thing. What do we got for pop? Not bad. I mean, I would much rather a different Outrunner ESC in here than the Mamba. It seems kind of wasted. I love that I had to go look it up because there's a massive BEC wired in line, and I was like, that thing is kind of big. And they're like, any Mamba Micro X2 manufactured after this date has an internal BEC, etc., etc. There's a slight difference in volume here. Again, this guy drives like he's portaled, even though he's not. Oh, wow. The trigger, same radios. We got an RC4 and an RC4. The trigger input for these two is so incredibly different. And yeah, there's more drive in here. But I have a lot more adjustability on Zobazu than I do on the other one. There's part of me that doesn't mind doing it because of, I love fabrication, but there's part of me that doesn't want to make new chassis rails for that guy. Because I feel if I was going to make new chassis rails, I would be like, well, let's omit the forward motor mount, or just, I wouldn't even have to omit, just the forward motor mount, for those who don't know, it's not like this, it sits like this, so it's angled down. If it was just flat, so there's 4 holes that mount the forward motor mount from the outside of the chassis. I would mount them the way I would want to do it, which is flip them around so that the forward motor mount bolts on from the back. Then you could just slide the whole motor mount off because it wouldn't be trapped by the shock towers. There's a lot I would do. And the more I think about going into the process of building rails but retaining the forward motor mount, I think we can do some good here. It should not be as much as it is, but the forward drive of this genuinely feels improved, and it was good before. And we don't have any binding issues in the front, so with the near 20% overdrive underdrive, he can turn a properly tight circle. It is also, I don't know how well the camera captures, but it is ice-scaldingly bright out here. I think it's very fitting now, though, that his drivetrain is as loud as his body is. Do I notice a difference in completely flipping the front geometry? Yeah, I do. Do I notice a difference in actually getting gear reduction? Very much. I'm squinting so bad. I am a blue-eyed devil. So on days like this, it's so bright. I have tried the Castle with... I have tried the Castle with Outrunner before, as in a lot of the nomenclature, in a lot of the posted materials regarding Yellow Jackets and Black Jackets. They give you the breakdown for how to run them on Castle speed controls, like here's all the settings to put and everything. And like functionally, in terms of how does it work, works. The sound, though. I've made the assertion that Castle is yet to make a crawler-specific product, and I absolutely stand by that. Oh, also, half-completed thought from earlier. In all of the documentation online for the Mamba Micro X2, it says, what is it, for 18th scale vehicles, etc., and vehicles weighing up to 2.25 pounds. So, I mean, we're definitely using something not for how it's supposed to be used. I'm curious to see what kind of heat we're going to get, what with the mechanical interference issues of the motor rubbing on the drive shaft, and that's all me. You know what the best part is? Aside from instances like right there, where I've got to do like a 5-point right here to get through, because we didn't really do super great on exit there. I notice the lack of underdrive, not at all. I don't perceive it at all. So that vehicle as outfitted right there has none. And by that vehicle, I mean the blue one to your right. I don't mean this one. This guy's got 18%, 9% overdrive in the front, 9% underdrive in the rear, which should, if math is still math, should total around 18%. Yeah, that front end just pushes down now. This guy turns really sharp, really, really sharp, and drives like he has an infinite amount of ground clearance, particularly if you drive it like what I'm doing right now. If you drive them in immediate proximity to one another, this guy, just take whatever line you want. I'm going to see, okay, we're going to go with this guy. I'm going to shoot it around here, come up this face right here, and come out onto this, what I can see his light bar. Okay. Can't see what he's hung up on. There we go. Okay. He's creeping. He's creeping over there. Let me try. Same exact thing. This vehicle now has a thing which has not had previously, which is low speed control, because when I tip in, I can go very slow. Perhaps too slow? Came right up through here. There's the, just like, this is the design. The cascading failure. Anything that I haven't addressed yet is very vocal about how it needs addressed. The breakover on this is bad. For something with portals, how are we not dropping down enough to push that belly over? The other guy's straight axles too. But as much, and I am coming around. I am 100% coming around because I had said I don't really like Air 45s. It's the axle nobody asked for. I have very different opinions now after the AR 45s on this. This guy is just straight nimble. And his breakover is straight outstanding. Like, he just marauds. Yeah. I'm hoping that it translates through this medium. As you sit and watch, I hope that this translates, that when I talk about, yeah, whatever my feelings are about Red Cat, that's not part of the conversation. What I'm talking about is objectively, there's no advantage to that Red Cat Ascent over anything else. The simple statement of the $290.99 is out the window. It's gone because the factory electronics are horrible and the factory tires are they're okay, but you can certainly do better. These are Amazon tires and we're doing better. The Ascent, as it sits right now, is certainly more pleasant to drive than it was previously. But in equal measure, frustrating. Because there's stuff I can't change without making it not what it is. I am fine with still calling this a Red Cat Ascent after replacing the transfer case with a gearbox. I don't think we've changed anything fundamentally. I think if nothing else, we've added gear reduction, which it desperately needed. Do I think that its performance would probably be even further improved by just omitting the front motor mount altogether? Yeah, probably, because that's basically the configuration of this guy. Is forward motor mount directly onto the gearbox. Get over. There you go. Get over. There you go. Yes, I have more suspension adjustment positions on this vehicle. So I can set it up properly. So Zobazu has more forward drive. But it's not just about the forward drive at all. What it's about is that when I'll pull through a section like this, he is a quietude. He doesn't hang up on anything. I've mentioned drives like portaled, and then the Red Cat is a portal that drives like straight axle, because the pumpkins are so big that the portals are only there to help try to keep the massive pumpkins from getting stuck. It's improved. I wouldn't argue that at all. But I'm re-engineering it. I really do. Okay. I mentioned before, briefly, that I wasn't noticing the lack of underdrive. Yeah, except when I turn. That's the only time the underdrive helps the Ascent. I don't feel it like here. When I get into climbing, I don't feel the lack of underdrive. I got a little far right. There we go. Whoop. I'm learning to catch this guy. Yeah, see? Sometimes entry line is all of it. Because with the Ascent, it's when turning. Like, it needs the underdrive just to turn because the steer angle is not as good. The AR-45's got a lot more steer angle in it than this. You see this guy sweep around really wide, and particularly as I had lowered it, we've got that horn interference issue. I'm gonna keep going, you know? No, get over that way. Get over that way. Yeah, go, buddy! He needs more work, but he's definitely getting better. This is not a which one would I pick. It's not even, it's not a contest. We are giving the Ascent every advantage. See if you can cut back this way. Hopefully the noise canceling spares you a little bit of the pulse width noise. I kind of, after a while, I don't really notice it that much. The Ascent is pretty loud, even with I paid no attention to the gears that I used when I assembled the impromptu gearbox that's in there. I grabbed the halves from the gearbox that I don't recommend that anyone buy. Grabbed a bottom gear and an idler. I think it's about half plastic, half metal. It's just a collection of parts, and it definitely seems to be getting the job done. Yeah, that's a dead pull. We did not move that much weight forward. I think that guy's about 80 grams. If nothing else, I think the battery, a midships centerline battery, is the big change that we made on this guy, because he just goes. This is the most grip, unquestionably the most grip I have seen out of the hunks. And he has been a consistently nimble performer since our first tinkering with him, and he has only well and truly gotten better. I can't find the other. Where's the other radio? So this guy is better. He is definitely better. Let's see how he does. Yeah, he's real good. Forward drive is improved. This guy has problems with clearances and turning. And the turning is, well, I'll take 50-50. I had to remove the underdrive because I want the thing to work, and that's going to hurt the steering. Now, I think I can correct it if I mess around with that front axle. New horn, new linkage, get the front end sorted out a bit more. Because like here on Slick Rock, we've definitely got the drive. We've definitely got the forward drive. His forward drive is very nearly as good as Zobazu's. So this is a feel good incorporated here. We made wholesale changes to two vehicles, and they are both improved. That's not always how it works. So we take these victories when we can. The shadows out here are just harsh. Okay, we'll come into what definitely classifies as a hard line here. He never feels like he's gonna throw the front end all the way over. Yeah, it's kind of easy mode. He's got to pick a very specific line for it, because the hunk, again, in terms of what we like for side lug, doesn't have nearly as much. Tusk style a bit better. Ooh, that's right into my tinnitus zone right there. And again, here we go. He's going to set that front end down. I knew it wasn't going to pop too high. A little more throttle. There we go. Get outside of it, and yeah, it's wins. It's all wins today. But, and here I think is where I stand. Ask me where I think Zobazu sits in his current outfit. Any changes made would be small, incremental tinkers here and there. Like, perhaps the fit was different on the C channels, but on the flat rails, I've noticed it uses offset ends, both ends of the upper links, front and rear, and it doesn't need them. Like, they look like they're binding against the pivot ball. So I would switch at least half of the rod ends out to straight rod ends, little stuff, tiny little stuff. Double check the spacers on Panhard, Draglink, etc. Make sure, like, he is in the last few percent. If you ask me what needs still be done to our good friend over there, Rattlecat, I would say bring me a pencil and some paper, because he needs a good bit. Alloy rails designed to correct the angle of the forward motor mount, eliminate the shock towers, the wonky shock towers, to get the front and rear shock angles just where I want them. Would take care of most of it. I've got to sort out that drag link issue, the steering horn issue, and a number, the wiring issue with all the shafts going around everywhere. There's the glass tile, and there is the Rattlecat Ascent. I feel like we've really gained some zen outlook on just life from working on this thing. It's still just a pain in the ass. It genuinely is. Working on it, there's screws all over my workbench, because you have to take most of the vehicle apart to do anything. It's a puzzle box. But we embrace. If we embrace the weaknesses, then we can try to, like you saw, I'm not saying that the thing can't wheel. Absolutely can. It's so much better than it was, but I've done nothing about the geometry that I was given in terms of link positions. It could certainly use more anti-squat in the rear. It could certainly use, basically all the links probably need to be rebuilt. Maybe something's got to be done to the front. Perhaps, here's what I'm thinking. Okay, follow along with me in this last minute or two. What I think need to be done is new chassis rails need to be manufactured, but before the chassis rails are manufactured, I think we need to keep around the same wheelbase that we're sitting at right now. But I would say pull the front axle back about 5 millimeters and then extend the whole rear end back 5 to 10 millimeters. So by the time Rattlecat has achieved his final form, I will have re-engineered all of the geometry of the entire vehicle. And at that point, it will still look mostly like what you're looking at now. But it won't be a Rattlecat Ascent anymore. It's still going to have the forward motor mount. I'm sticking to it. We're committed. It's still going to have the shocks and the axles and the body and the side skirts and a lot of Rattlecat pieces. But we will have changed things at a fundamental level. In truthful statement, very similar to the green gentleman that's sitting across from him. Because the green gentleman across from him shares from his base camp builder's kit lineage the axles, the links, and the gearbox. And when we are done with Rattlecat, he will share most likely the axles, the forward motor mount, the body, some plastics here and there. They will have about equal percentages representing their lineage. So, I should just be more accepting of that. Why should I hold it against Rattlecat when we rebuild other vehicles from scratch all the time? We shouldn't. It's just that he's forever going to have those axles, and the weakest point of that vehicle's handling characteristics are forever going to be those axles. It's a shame, because honestly, and I mean this, if I took that blue fella right there, if I took him inside right now, remove those axles and put F10 straights on it, it would get so much better. So much better. But then we would have virtually nothing remaining of the Red Cat Ascent. So, what a long and strange trip this has been. What a winding road that the Fab Lab has led us down. We have forward mounted, motor mounted, and we have detached gearboxed, and we have de-transfer cased, and we have made things better. At least, that is my perception of the situation. So I bid you adieu for the day. That through the monitor, I hope that looks as good in edit. The fresh rain, the different colors of the rocks. What a beautiful day here in the canyon. We've got a little breeze cutting the edge in that scathing humidity. Thank you all so very much for joining us here in the canyon for this rambling diatribe and a little bit of fabrication. And I haven't eaten lunch, and it's well past lunch, and I'm not saying that I get that target fixation and just work on something for hours, but we're in hour 7 of the day, including the filming. Thanks so much, everybody. Come back again. We'll see you in the next one. We've got stuff. There's always stuff. I look forward to seeing you again. I hope sincerely that in the time between now and the time when we meet again next, you all, one and all, do your very best. Have a good one, everybody. We bid you adieu from the canyon. Do all of the usual things that please the algorithm. All hail the almighty algorithm. And we'll see you next time. Have a good one, everybody.